Yeah, I mean, so it was just...
That ought to be penalty enough to...
That would scare the heck out. Hello and welcome to Aging is for Everyone. I'm Laura Mondello and I'm your host for the show. Today we are talking about homelessness in Western New York, and there are a lot of amazing organizations out there that are really trying to help homeless people. Our first guest is here to talk about the Homeless Alliance, and it's their executive director, Dale Zugleski. Welcome, Dale.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
It's great to have you with us. The Homeless Alliance. Tell us a little bit about what it is and what it is that you do and how you help homeless folks in Western New York.
The Homeless Alliance is an alliance of over 100 service providers in Erie and Niagara counties. Mm-hmm. And our main responsibility is to write a HUD grant of $8 to $10 million per year that gets distributed among several agencies that provide services in housing to the homeless. Mm-hmm. Then any homeless service provider that receives federal funding has to input client data into a database that we maintain. We do reports, grant writing, advocacy, and just general education for people on poverty issues and homelessness.
Mm-hmm. So you're sort of the coordinating group that keeps the statistics so we really know what's going on.
Right. We're known as the continuum of care for Erie and Niagara counties.
Okay. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of, people have a lot of thoughts about homelessness. They have a lot of maybe misconceptions.
Right.
What are some of the things that are common, misperceptions, misconceptions that people have about homeless people?
Some of the common perceptions are that people choose to be homeless. Mm-hmm. No one chooses to be without a home. Mm-hmm. There are some people that are living out on the streets that have some severe mental and maybe substance abuse disabilities that are making rational choices. And people think that's a choice. I think when people think that people choose that, it sort of relieves them of any kind of responsibility or guilt for taking responsibility for helping another human being. The other myth is that the homeless are that stereotype of the old disheveled man pushing a shopping cart down the street.
Right.
That's really only about 10% of the homeless population. What people don't know is that 28% of the homeless population are actually children under the age of 18. Wow. And that's very shocking to people. So when you think of homelessness, it's really not, I mean, there are people living out in the streets, but that's not the predominant population.
Yeah. So that breakdown, what would it, you mentioned about 10% might be the traditional, what people think of as homeless, and 28% are children. What is the rest of the breakdown?
Certainly the predominant population are single males. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to homeless families, it's single mothers with their children. Mm-hmm. And there's a real crisis of poverty among single mothers. And Maria Shriver's recently doing some reports through her foundation on women living in poverty. And that may be the hot topic for this year, especially this is the 50th year of Lyndon Johnson started the war on poverty.
Right. As far as, in this area, do you think that the homeless situation in the past few years have been getting worse? Has it been getting better? Is it stable?
It got slightly worse last year, mostly among families. And that's shocking. And the problem in the area, in the country in general, is a lack of living wage jobs.
Right.
Poverty is the root cause of homelessness. And there's nothing better than a good paying job. People want to work. And
Right.
that's that other misconception. People don't want to work. They just want to live off the government. People want a living wage job. They want what everybody else has. And they're willing to work for it. It's just those jobs just aren't there anymore.
So you have families who maybe have two people working and they're able to get by, and then maybe one person loses a job or they have health issues.
Right, and there are so many people living on the edges of homelessness. They're living week to week, sometimes day to day. And especially this time of year, you get that one large gas bill.
Right.
It can throw you into the depths of not being able to pay your bills, and eventually you may get evicted. And the Erie County Department of Social Services does an excellent job of making sure there really aren't any homeless families out on the streets. If there are, it's for a very short period of time. So homeless families are well taken care of. I think they're overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of singles that do become homeless each year.
Right, right. What are some steps that are being taken to really address the homeless crisis? Obviously, if we had more jobs, that would be a big step. More good-paying jobs that could sort of lift people out of poverty. But what are some other steps locally that are happening? There
are some new HUD regulations that, when you talk regulations, people get government off my back. They don't like regulations, but HUD is actually forcing communities around the country to work together to end homelessness. They want us working with the county, they want us working with the city, and any money they get has a requirement that they have to work with us on homeless issues.
Right.
HUD wants us to prioritize the chronically homeless, the person that has been unsheltered for a long period of time, because they are the high-cost users of services. They use the emergency rooms as their primary care facility. They're in and out of the jails. Jails cost $125 per night. We can house somebody with services for $50 a night and save those costs. It's actually more cost-effective to house people than it is to leave them to literally die on the streets of Buffalo.
Right, right. And obviously it's more ethically.
Well, the ethical, immoral argument hasn't worked.
Exactly,
so
unfortunately.
We're going toward that saving taxpayers' dollars, and it's true.
It's true.
So when you start, money is a universal language.
Right.
So when you start talking about saving money, people listen.
Right. Unfortunately, they don't listen when you talk about just doing what's right for your fellow man. But speaking of that, how can people, if people do want to help what you're doing, if people are seeing this and maybe they want to help with your mission, how can they get in touch with you? And do you use volunteers?
I think you're going to display our website and our phone number. You can contact us. The one thing I ask people is, the first thing you can do is don't judge other people, because many people find themselves in very difficult circumstances.
Right.
And then we don't serve clients directly, but we can react as a referral to agencies that can use tons of volunteers to help end homelessness.
Right, and I do know that there is a lot of good information on your website if somebody wants more information on, you know, the extent of homelessness. And
we're going to update our website within the next month to make it more user-friendly and make it easier to find that information.
Great. Well, you know, thank you for what you're doing and your organization is doing for, you know, homeless people in Western New York, and really for all of us, because we all owe it to our fellow man, I think.
so.
That's my personal feeling, to make sure that nobody is without a home. So thank you for being with us, Dale.
Thank you, Laura.
We will be right back with more Aging is for Everyone. Family Promise?
You want like a little history?
Yeah, just a little bit, real quick.
history?
You know,
Okay.
how you were formed. You know, I thought maybe if you could give us an example of what a typical day is like for. I mean, who would be better to?
She
I
would
could
be
do
better,
that.
because, yeah.
Okay, what a typical day is like for your clients, because it's a little different than
Sorry. I didn't
other
know there was a
programs,
dress.
it seems. I mean,
A little
yeah.
different.
What do you think?
I think if I just
what the services you offer
there,
to help families
that might be
get
good enough.
on their feet to get settled into a home, where you're located. And I'm going to ask these questions. If we don't talk about them in the introduction, I'll ask the questions. So, you know, don't worry about it. We'll figure it
All right.
out. Okay, Sandy, is that okay?
Seitz,
It's S-E.
S-E-I-T-Z.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Who is that?
It should be
She
S-E-I-T-Z.
can hear you, but
I
you
know.
can't hear her.
I know.
Okay.
And not board director, board president,
Board president, it should be.
because we have.
So she'll have to change that.
In the meantime, smile, guys. There it is. Perfect.
It'd take her a little bit to change that.
Okay.
Denise Morse.
Morse, just like the code.
Okay. Good. Denise, if you want, you could put this inside your coat. No,
Inside.
leave that where it is. Just unbutton your coat and then
So
put
the,
the.
what, hiding the
Oh,
wire, is
That
that what
hides
you're
the
doing?
wire a little bit.
Oh, okay. What do I know?
Just looks a little more professional.
Okay.
Like the. I was gonna say, did I change anything here?
How's that look?
S-E-I.
But it's closer.
You're getting closer.
He's working on it.
You're getting closer.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I will send you, like I said, a link to a YouTube segment that you can, you know, share with your, it's good, it's nice to share with your funders or with the churches that are involved, just to let them know, you know, that you're out there, you know, trying to get the word out about the program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been with the program, Denise?
I have been with the program a little over a
All right,
year.
how's that?
You got it.
Perfect.
Okay, good.
There I am.
Over the year, and that's correct,
How's
Denise?
this one?
That's correct.
That is correct. Is that
It's our
correct?
new address.
That's our new address.
And the phone number's correct?
That's correct.
All righty, we're all good on this one.
All right.
We're ready.
Now it's all right that we haven't actually moved there yet.
When will you be there?
Hopefully next week, I hope.
Well, that's fine. It's not going to be
Okay.
there until the fourth
Oh, well, then we'll be
Saturday,
there.
and
The
and
phone
then
number hasn't
You
changed.
definitely want to keep it so you have the information.
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
For the future.
That would be terrible. Most definitely.
Welcome back to Aging is for Everyone. We are talking about homelessness today and talking about some groups that are helping homeless people and families in Western New York. Here to tell us a little bit about Family Promise are Sandy Seitz and Denise Morse from Family Promise of Western New York. Welcome to both of you. It's great to have you with us. Sandy, can you just give us an overview of what Family Promise is, how it came about, and
Okay. Family Promise is about 25 years old, and it's all over the country. We have affiliates all over the country. It was called Interfaith Hospitality Network, and then they reformed it. We're up and running again under Family Promise of Western New York 3 years now.
Okay.
So,
And exactly, it's a little bit different than other programs.
Yes.
How does Family Promise work? How do you work with families?
Well, basically, we work with families, just families. It doesn't matter the type of family, the makeup of the family. It could be a mother and father. It could be a mother with children. It could be a dad with children. It could be a grandma who has guardianship over her children, or it could be siblings who have guardianship over other siblings, as long as they're a family. Doesn't matter the makeup. That's who we help. Because basically I think we're one of 2 agencies in the area that service families. It's Salvation Army and Family Promise. Basically, when families get into homelessness, they sometimes want to separate the family. The father has to go to a separate shelter than the mom and the children. So the basic focus of our program is to keep families together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where do the families, I know what you do is you provide shelter for families. Where do they stay?
Well, what we do is we work with about 14 congregations, churches, that actually house our guests overnight. They provide breakfast, they provide lunch, they provide the evening meal, dinner every day. And what they do is go in the evening. They leave our shelter at 4:30 in the evening, and we provide van transportation to the host site for the evening. And they stay there overnight. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning, the van picks them up again and brings them back to the day site.
Okay.
And there is where they get their children off to school. If they have jobs, they go to work from there. If they're looking for housing, they leave from there to go look for housing or take care of appointments. If they have appointments at Department of Social Services, they leave from our facility there. And we also do have internet services for them to get on the internet actually and look for housing so they don't have to go out all the time.
Okay. And as far as, so families basically come to your site during the day, and then they stay at the congregations in the evening.
Right.
Do they stay in one particular place?
Well, what we out of the 14 congregations, they stay at each congregation for a week at a time.
Okay.
You know, we realize that it's a little, it's kind of discomforting for families to have to move like that.
Right.
But basically, that's how our program is set up right now, that they go from site to site from week to week.
Okay.
We are looking into doing something to alleviate that, to
Right.
have one site where the families can stay and we don't have to do that. But right now, that's what we're doing.
Right, right. It sounds like it would be probably a little hard for the congregations to get all their volunteers and feed people for a week. And how many families typically do you have in your program at once?
We usually have sometimes up from 1 to 3, and we can house up to 15 people.
Okay.
Gets a little uncomfortable, but we can house up to 15 people.
Okay.
And that's why we're we're moving to a larger site where we'll have more room and space for our clients, our guests, we like to call them guests, to move about, because it's kind of tight where we are presently.
Right. Now, as far as the families that you serve, do you have a lot of families with children, and how do you what schools do they go to? Do they have
Well, wonderful setup is that when the children come in and the families have lost housing, they can attend the same school that they were attending. It's through McKinney-Ventu. We just have to arrange for the bus transportation. It's all free.
Okay.
They'll come and pick them up at our site and bring them back in the evening.
Right. And obviously you don't want this to be an ongoing thing, so are there are there services that you provide to really try to help the families
Yes, we
to
do.
get back into regular housing and
Yes.
jobs? And
We have case management services is provided to all our families. What we do is provide listings for housing. Sometimes we even take them to search for housing ourselves, because sometimes they don't have transportation and it's difficult for them to get around. We have internet service, as I said, where they can go on the internet and look for housing on their own. And each week, Belmont Services provides a listing of area housing. There's North Buffalo, South Buffalo, the East Side, West Side, and they can take those listings and just look through and see what they want to go and look at.
Good, good. And where are the congregations located? Are they all
They
through
are
Western New York?
located, we have a congregation in Akron, East Aurora. Basically, they're all over. All over the Erie County.
Okay.
And they're all denominations. And we also have not only the 14 host sites, but we have about 25 to 30 what they call support churches. So they work with the host sites for a meal or to spend the night. So we have over,
I think 500.
yeah, innumerable
That's great.
volunteers.
That's wonderful. And speaking of volunteers, quickly, how can people help with your work?
Oh, they can just call our office, 891-2100, and we'll direct them to a site, or we have a congregational committee that reaches out to volunteers to get them to help us in our services to the homeless. So we have a lot of ways of getting volunteers.
That's wonderful. So
And what's also unique about our program also is we help our families once they get into an apartment.
Right.
We give them furniture, whatever they need.
That's great to hear. Well, thank you guys for being with us. It sounds like a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more Aging is for Everyone.
But I remember it was
4 or 5 years ago.
Please, when I first started 10 years ago, we had there was one person on every camera. There was another person to do to hook everybody's microphones up. It was like a lot of people, and they just slowly started disappearing.
Hey, Laura, did you put up the number for the friary?
She'll show us
Okay.
what they have. We can add it if it's not there. I did give it.
Okay,
I'm
good.
pretty sure I did.
Put it where?
Well,
Be like hide it.
if you can
You can do this. and
unbutton your church
unbutton
and put
it-
the,
Oh,
Melanie's fine. Okay. And then. How about Rachel? Rachel, you okay?
Yes. It's pronounced Rachel, just in a way when you
Rachel?
Rachel.
Rachel, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Correct.
It's pronounced Richard.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Is that good?
That's great.
Correct. Thank you. And then there should be little portion for.
Excellent.
Good. Okay, we're good.
One shot, everybody's smiling. Oh, perfect. That screen's the same as last year, isn't it?
Huh?
That screen's the same as last year. Good.
I think it was a few years ago that we did the program with little.
God, these
Little
lights are
portion.
bright, aren't they?
I know. Well, that's why Ro couldn't do
supposed to.
it for, when she was having eye problems.
I can see why.
Yeah. I
Well,
know.
she's moved,
I know, she has.
Oh, that's right. At the last meeting, she was.
Yeah, yeah. Are you going to be able to be at our meeting? I just sent an email today reminding we have a meeting
No,
Tuesday.
Because I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh, where are you going this time? I forgot.
Singapore to Hong Kong.
He's going to from Singapore to Hong Kong tomorrow. Richard is going from Singapore to Hong Kong tomorrow.
That was 2 years ago.
How many trips between now and then? I envy you.
Like a bazillion.
But you have earned every trip. Welcome back to Aging is for Everyone. We are talking about homelessness today, and there's so many great groups out there helping homeless folks. We have some more folks from 2 different groups who work together. Joining us for this segment are Rachelle Morrison, who's the coordinator of the Crisis Service Homeless Program, along with Melanie Worth, who's the homeless case manager for Crisis Services, and Richard Gehring, who is a volunteer with Little Portion Friary. Welcome to all of you. It sounds like a great synergy you have between you, but first, let's talk about Crisis Services and how Crisis Services helps homeless families and individuals.
Well, Crisis Services has a couple different programs within our Outreach to the Homeless program. We are the designated after-hours emergency services program for the Erie County Department of Social Services. And what that consists of is if someone is homeless after 4 o'clock on holidays or weekends, they can call Crisis Services at our 834-3131 hotline number, and they will be in touch with someone who will assess their situation, see if they're safe. If not, and they are in need of shelter, we have the capabilities of placing them in emergency shelter in one of the shelters in Buffalo, or in motels or hotels that are also contracted through the Department of Social Services. The next day, they are linked with a case manager from Crisis Services who will give them the information that they need in order to get their shelter stay extended through Department of Social Services. So that's one of our biggest programs that is run through the hub of the agency, which is our crisis counseling program. Another program that we have in our homeless department is the program that Melanie will be speaking of shortly, where the city of Buffalo has contracted Crisis Services Homeless Program to go into the different shelters where we are co-located a couple days throughout the week at the different shelters to provide case management, advocacy, and link them to resources. Another program, we are in collaboration with different agencies who also work with the homeless population, with the shelter program right now that assists with rapidly rehousing those individuals in shelter.
Okay.
So we have a couple different programs that run through our Outreach to the Homeless program, and we kind of intertwine with all of our other programs. You know, we have the Advocate program, we have the Adult Mental Health program, and they're able to link us through the crisis services hotline. If there's one of their clients are calling in or anything like that, we're able to work together with each other to get the services to the client. So it's a really unique program that we have going at Crisis Services.
It sounds like it. It sounds wonderful. I mean, it's good to know that there's that, especially that emergency hotline number that people can call if, you know, because heaven knows after a certain hour everybody's closed, and it's like it's good to know that Crisis Services is there for people.
Yes, we are there 24/7. You can give us a call. Anyone can reach out for any emergency services, if they're in crisis, any trauma in the city, or if they just need a question for some information on something, they can give us a call, and we're always there to help them.
Now, Melanie, you work in the case management program and
I do.
help manage folks and help them out. Are there some, you know, similarities between the cases that you see, or is it all across the board of who you're working with?
They're usually all over, but there are some consistencies as well. A lot of people are just finding themselves with no place to go because they lost their job or they lost their income, or a lot of times people have just become disabled and they just don't have the means to pay for another apartment or make their rent. So we do see a lot of those ones frequently.
And as far as your case management, how exactly do you help people? What do you do?
I go into a couple different shelters, including Little Portion Friary. We work very closely with them, and we try to identify why they became homeless. So if it is an income issue, if it's an affordable housing issue, we try to tackle those and link them to services to prevent them from recycling and becoming homeless once again.
Right, because you could try to solve the problem, but if you don't get to the root cause, it's just going to happen again. Now, you said that you work with Little Portion Friary. Richard, tell us a little bit about Little Portion Friary.
I'd love to. We are very unique, and I say that because we have no paid staff. The whole place is run through the services of our volunteers. They're critical to our operation every day. We have no governmental funding whatsoever, no United Way funding, and people say, well, how do you manage? Through the kindness of strangers. People make donations, and we use those to pay the heating and electrical bills. We have a clothing closet, so we accept clothing donations. We have a food, we have a small contract with the Food Bank of Western New York, so we buy a lot at 15 cents a pound, the food that we need, but we also take food donations. A lot of the organizations in the city will drop by after a party and bring good food, and we serve that immediately.
Wonderful.
We're unique on many levels, the least of which is that the whole place is run with volunteers.
Right.
And the relationship we've had with Crisis Service has been wonderful. I work with Mel on Monday morning, and we do all the interviewing of the guests, and then she follows through with the plan that we develop with the guest on Monday morning. So I'm there a lot. I work at different shifts. We do need volunteers, especially overnight from 11 to 7, and also on the weekends. And people can work a shift, which is 1 to 6 or 11 to 7 or 7 to 11, you know, but they can work the number of hours they can work. In other words, we'll take their services because we need 2 people on each shift.
Right.
And the number's on the screen, I know. If people are interested, just call the Friary and ask for Ann, who's the coordinator of volunteers, and she'll get back to them.
Right, right. So it sounds like a great working relationship between the two of you. Just quickly, how many beds how many folks can you accommodate, and how long can they stay there?
Okay, that's a good question. We have a total of 30 beds, 10 for women and 10 for and 20 for men. However, the person has to be 18 years of age and over, up to any age. We've had people in their 90s that have been at the shelter. We are open around the clock, and we do the assessment, as I said. Their time with us depends on their motivation to work on their issues and problems. We use the term guests because they're a guest in this wonderful old mansion on Main Street, and it's like a home. So we treat them as guests, and they have chores. Everybody pitches in to keep the place running on a daily basis.
Great, great. Well, we're out of time, but I want to thank you all for being with us. It sounds like you are working really well together, and thank you for being with us. We'll put up on the screen more information, but thank you for being with us. We will see you next month for more Aging is for Everyone.